All right, so our purpose today is just to make sure we all feel prepared for our fall assessment of our teamwork ILO. My outcomes that I have planned for us is that you'll feel comfortable with the PAC teamwork rubric. So we're just going to kind of go through the criteria of the rubric in case you haven't seen it in a while, or if you're new and you're unfamiliar. You'll be able to use the digital teamwork survey in your classroom, and then we'll have some time just for questions and answers. And if we have some extra time for discussion too, we might be able to collaborate with some strategies. There's several people in this session I saw that were jumping in that have actually piloted the survey with me in the past year and a half. I've been working on it for that long. And so they can probably chime in with their experience if they want to, no pressure. They know who they are. All right, so our teamwork ILO overview. Our learning outcome is that Palo Alto students consider different points of view and work effectively with others to support a shared purpose or goal. That is the learning outcome that is set forth by THACB. The definition that we've come up with for a teamwork activity is an activity that is involving more than one student, so 2 students or more work together to complete a common task. Our rubric criteria. So we have 3 criteria in the teamwork rubric, and I'll put the link to the rubric in the chat as well. Students make a quality contribution to the team activity. Student treats fellow team members courteously with respect. And then lastly, student models personal attributes that contribute to teamwork. So let me go ahead and put the rubric in the chat, just in case you need a copy. And I will be sending out a copy of this presentation too later, so it has a link for the rubric in the presentation as well. There are 4 performance levels for this rubric currently. Let's see. We can go over those later if we want to. I already started mentioning this, but our teamwork assessment process is unique. And this is the process that many schools in Texas are taking for this approach for teamwork, because it's hard to tell if a student participated in a teamwork activity by just looking at their responses. It can be difficult. So in this sense, students rate their peers and themselves using the teamwork rubric. Faculty also complete evaluation of the students in the sample using the teamwork rubric. And then the teamwork key assignments are not directly assessed. It's kind of to Lance's question that he asked earlier. There's not a rubric that directly aligns to the key assignment. It's just aligning to more of the behaviors that we want our students to exhibit when they're working in a team. So peer interaction and participation is rated. Now, if I'm not mistaken, my next slide is something just to lighten up our mood for the session. I have a book. I was a math teacher. I have a book called The Book of Charts. It's one of my favorite books. There's a chart for everything. So this used to make me laugh. So what group projects are supposed to teach you? Teamwork, communication, responsibility, collaboration. We hope for those things. And then my book of charts also says what group projects actually teach you. And I mean, we're hoping to not have that big red zone of trust no one, but I thought it was funny. It's my little book of charts. If you ever want to see a nerdy math book of charts, just come to my room. I have several. And there's some good charts in there. Makes my math heart happy. All right, so what we're all here for, the digital teamwork survey. I wanted to give a little background, and then I am going to give you time to just play around with it. So this was the old teamwork survey. It was paper and pencil. It had the rubric language, but then if you look at the actual survey itself, it has a very small amount of space to put your name, circle your rating, and then the explanation of the rating, that's a super small section. Maybe they took up the whole space here, but there's not much space to explain why you did that. So if anybody wrote a response, it might have just been good, or they didn't talk. But that doesn't really give us that much insight into anything. In addition to that, a lot of surveys were given during class time. I don't know about you, but if my team member was sitting maybe behind me or 2 seats down, and I was trying to say that maybe they didn't help me out as much as I wanted them to in the project, I might feel uncomfortable saying that in the position. And that's totally, it's a valid feeling. So what we work to do with this digital survey is to help with some of this. No more pencil and paper, so you don't have to collect a bazillion pieces of paper from your students. We're giving them bigger space to write an explanation, and it's also required. They have to justify their rating. So you're not just giving out random numbers to people. And then the survey can be given at any moment since it's digital now. You can embed it in your Canvas course so students can take it on their own time. I have been piloting the survey with faculty members and volunteers since spring 2020. So I wanted to share with you just what I thought was kind of cool about our data that I have so far. Now, I did do an average, so it's not my favorite way to collect our responses, but it was the best way with the data I had so far. If you look at spring 2020, there were fewer courses here. There were 7 courses that worked with me to pilot it. And these results were pretty much in line with what we had been seeing before in our teamwork assessment. Everybody did great. Everybody was wonderful. Look at that respect category, 99% met the standard. As much as I want that to be true, I think we all know realistically that might not be. So what I thought was cool was that as time continued and we continued using the pilot, and some of these faculty that piloted with me in spring 2020, they continued all the way to spring 2021. And you see that the numbers are starting to get a little bit more realistic. Now they're still pretty high, which is consistent with other universities and colleges in Texas that are performing the assessment a similar way. But students are starting to become more honest in their ratings, and they feel more comfortable giving ratings that, may be more truthful. And then what I think is the coolest part is the effects on the students and how they're thinking about what it means to be a good team member using the language of the rubric. So I just wanted to share some responses from students during the pilot. So quality contributions. I have been working triple shifts for the past few weeks. I have barely been going to meetings, but I've still been keeping contact with them and giving them the materials they need. So they're explaining that justification for their rating for themselves that was probably a good one because they felt that they were still participating in a group even if they couldn't go to meetings. Respect. I feel like no response to communication is disrespectful, as well as trying to post after the final post. I thought that one was cool because it's thinking of respect in a different way besides just, oh, they were nice to me. They were kind. So this person is really thinking about what it means to be respectful. And then lastly, personal attributes. Took an active leader role and set up Zoom meetings, kept communications through email. I thought that was a great example of how the teamwork has continued even in the virtual setting. They set up the Zoom meetings. They were communicating through emails. So those personal attributes to them felt like that was the leadership role. So I just wanted to share those just anecdotally. All right, what we're all here for, the teamwork survey, the digital one. It's based on our teamwork ILO rubric. Students will first be prompted to select their name and rate themselves based on the rubric language. After that, students will be prompted to select their team members and then rate them one at a time. Let me put the link to the survey in the chat. I made a demo for today. You may see some names you recognize in there. I'm going to open it myself too. Are there any questions before I continue or comments? Okay, let me share my screen. All right, so this is the teamwork survey. It starts by giving a brief explanation to students about why they're doing it, what is the purpose of this, and some instructions. You're going to be asked to rate yourself and your team members. And then I'm still toying with this wording a little bit. If you have any suggestions, let me know. But I was trying to let students know that it's not a comparative process. They can rate everyone a 4. They can rate 2 people a 4, 2 people a 2. You don't have to rank your team members. And then please let your instructor know if you have any issues taking the survey. So after they do that, go to the next page. And I made this special for us today. I didn't require everything that I would normally have as a required question, or else it makes this survey a beast to go through as a sample. So students are first said to evaluate their teamwork skills. You choose your name from the list below. I have my lovely TLC members here. So I'm going to pick myself. And then based on the teamwork rubric, I rate myself. So first up is quality contributions to the team. The rubric language is here for students to see. And then they get to choose what their rating would be for themselves. I'll go ahead and give myself a 3. And then you have to explain why you chose the above rating. Now, this question is required. All questions with a star are required. And in the survey for students, every question would be required. And what I want to show you before I go on is if they leave this blank and I try and go on to the next page, it's going to bring me back up here and say, and I gave a little prompt, explain why you gave the rating above, use the rubric language to help you if you're not sure what to write. So just a little reminder to come back up here and say, okay, if I gave them a 3 versus a 4, what was that reasoning for? Was there a reason for it? So I'm just going to type something here. Now, of course, our students can do this too, where they just type gibberish. No one has yet. So just a side note, but yes, of course you could do that. Then they continue. Treatment of fellow team members, rubric language, rate yourself. I thought I took off some of these as required for us today, but I guess I didn't. Personal attributes that contributed to teamwork, rate yourself. And then the most important question before we move on, were there other members in your group? Now, I only filled it out for myself, so ideally the answer should be yes, but I know that there might be a special situation if someone needs to work alone, so I gave the option to say no, but ideally we should say yes. And then the student will move on to the next page. And the next page is all about the next team member. Now we had this set up differently. If you did the pilot with me in spring 2020, fall 2020, and spring 2021, we had it set up a little differently. We had to change it to clean the data better on the back end. So now the student chooses their team member's name. It doesn't matter what order they go in, they can pick it in any order they want. I recommend maybe coaching your students to have like a little checklist next to them so they don't forget who they're rating. I also put the team member's name in alphabetical order. That was a suggestion from a colleague that's doing a similar survey at their university. It helps students find their teammates just a little bit faster than going by their last name in alphabetical order. So I'll pick Mallory. And then we go through the same exact process, rate your team member. So I'll go through all the criterion again, and I'm realizing now that I must not have hit save because everything's still required. So I might stop here for a second instead of going through and writing answers to all of this and seeing if we have any questions about the functionality of the survey.
Oh, it actually looks very workable to me.
Yay, thank you, Lance.
Yeah, I'm still seeing the mostly, those gray words that I can't stand.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I worked on the communication rubric revision last summer. My plan is that the teamwork rubric will be the next rubric we revise. So that way we can get rid of some of that gray language and also maybe update it with some more, I don't know, modern teamwork language, like maybe talking about in the respect section, communicating with your teammates versus just being kind. So this will be the next rubric we update, but for this year, we have to use the same version because it is a process we have to go through a formal process to revise.
How do you get the names in the survey? Do you have to go through all the stuff we submit and say, okay, these, or do you put the whole class in there? Or?
Yes, that's a great question. Here, I'm going to stop sharing so I know who said that because I don't know.
It's Dale.
Oh, thanks, Dale. So it will be the whole class. So the whole class will be getting the survey since the whole class will be doing the teamwork assignment. And it's actually pretty simple. If you send me your rosters, I can do a bulk upload of the names in the survey, and it's as easy as copying and pasting.
Okay, I was wondering, like in the lab, we have been working groups of 4. I thought, well, is each one going to get a survey that has only their group members, or
They
you know,
will have they will have the entire class and they'll have to pick out their group members. We have not run into too many issues with students picking the wrong group members. And that's saying something because I know that one of the classes I worked with, I think in the spring, um, the students had the exact same name, or it was so similar. It was like a letter difference in the name, and they were still able to pick the right team members.
That's impressive.
Amanda, real quick, so are
Yeah.
we going to transition to this digital, everybody, or this is something we have a choice, or?
Everybody's transitioning to the digital version.
Amanda,
Yeah.
this is Jenny. I just to put a plug in. So I don't remember which semester I used it. I think it was fall 20.
I think you're right.
But it was so easy, and the students all responded. I just had to, I had to make sure that in my assignment, completing the survey was part of the assignment itself, that they were required to do that. But I have to tell you, that's probably the most honest feedback I've ever gotten on a teamwork survey. So, I mean, there were a few who slammed some of the other students in their group, but then they were also very detailed in why they weren't happy with the other students' performance. And then also, students talked about how much time they had spent and went into detail about how they arranged meeting times and, communication. I thought it was very helpful, and I felt like I was able to give a better assessment of their teamwork. So hats off to you. I thought it worked great.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and jump back to the presentation. You can keep playing with that survey, by the way. That link is just for us for today. And well, I'm not going to delete it right away, so you can keep playing with it. And your responses will stay anonymous. I don't know what you said. All right, so then what comes next? Every time I say that, I just have to think of King George from Hamilton, and it's just, I had to put him in here. It's in my brain. It will never go away. So I have a quick timeline to just go over so there's no surprises. So August 2021, our classes begin. Then after the census date, that's when I work with IR to create the sample. I'm going to try and get it as close to after the census date as possible, so that way I can communicate with you all as early as late September. Now I am communicating with another department, so in case there's any sort of delay in creating the sample, there's a chance it might be early October that I communicate with all of you if you have a student in the sample, but I'm going to try and get it as soon as I can. So that's when you can expect to hear from me. So then from late September all the way to December, the surveys are created and administered when faculty are ready to collect your student responses. I can send it to you as early as you want if you just want to have the link to your survey and be prepared, or I can wait until you're ready to give the survey to your students. I'm going to have a spreadsheet of everybody's names to keep all the details organized and the links organized. So whenever you're ready to use it in your classroom, I'm going to be ready to give it to you. And then lastly, I guess on this little list, in December, all of our surveys have to close by December 11th at the latest. I set that date just in case anyone's using the survey data as a part of their grade in their course, and you need it before grades are due. So that's when the last survey possible can close. Any questions about the timeline? Okay, so then I didn't know what to call this slide except what to expect from me in the fall. You'll be contacted by me in either late September or early October. I'm going to give you a video that shows you how to link the survey in your course. It's very straightforward, but we did find that if you just copy and paste the link into Canvas, just the way it is, it does have some issues that could be created. So there's probably a slightly better way and a better way to communicate the link to your students in Canvas. So I'll send a video that just kind of goes through that. I'll ask for some information from you if your student is in the sample. I'll need to know the approximate dates for your assignment. It's okay if it's not perfect. It just helps me know that I might need to check in with you around that time, or I might need to communicate with you about when you need the link. And you can just send it to me then, or you can talk to me later. Your current class roster, I can pull that from IR, but if you want to send it to me, just in case there are students that have preferred names, I would be happy to upload those preferred names into the survey so they feel comfortable with their name being in the survey. And then I can always change it back to what's on the official roster later if I need to. And then the maximum number of students in the group. If you notice, I showed you earlier on the survey, it says, are there more students in your group, or do you have more team members in your group? I can make as many pages as we need to in the survey, but I don't want to make it an issue for your students finding more information or accidentally submitting things. So knowing the maximum number of students in each group helps me create the right survey for you. And again, if you don't know that, that's okay. You don't have to tell me that right then. You can also just say, well, it probably won't be more than 6, and I'll make a survey that at least fits 6 students, and we'll all be fine. And then after the ratings have been submitted, it really is fairly quick for me to turn around and get you the results. So if you want to use those, you can. I'm also going to ask faculty to complete a quick survey, not the same one that the students are completing, but very similar to our previous process for assessing teamwork. You'll also be given a survey to rate the students and their teamwork skills. It's going to follow the same rubric language, but I don't think I'll need the justifications necessarily like we're asking the students for. Any questions from this slide?
So Amanda, we collect surveys from every student, but then when we're gonna rate students, we're just gonna rate the students that are on our list, correct?
I need to double check on that, actually. I'm not sure how that was run prior to in the last teamwork assessment. I realized that this morning that was a bit of information I was missing from the last teamwork assessment. So I'm not going to give you a definitive answer on that yet, but I will soon. I just need to double check with maybe members of my assessment committee that were here at the last teamwork assessment to see what was done before. Oh, Caroline?
Yeah, I have my syllabus prepared, and I think I might have put the teamwork assignment fairly early in the semester. Is that a problem?
No, I had a feeling for that. And so if that happens, the really good news is that the survey is easy to create. So I can help you if you'd like to use the survey in any of your classes, regardless of if they have a student in the sample. I can make that survey for you and you can use it in your class if you'd like. Because then you'll still get the results, even if you don't have a student that's in our official sample. So it could still be helpful if you're interested.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, things to remember. We somewhat talked about this earlier, but like I said, I'll be giving you all this presentation, so I thought I'd write it down. If you have at least one student in the sample in the course section, the whole class will take the survey. You do not need to submit student work, the artifact, meaning their actual teamwork assignment. I don't need that from you, but I do want the cover sheet that shows your key assignment instructions. Just a reminder, this is what the cover sheet looks like as of right now. You just have to fill in how your assignment aligns to the rubric criterion, and then include your key instructions. Or key assignment instructions is what I'm trying to say. All right, so these are just some recommendations, some tips that we've learned along the way for anyone that piloted the survey. It's helped to make an assignment in Canvas for the survey, or like Jenny said, to make the survey a part of your assignment. It helps you know who submitted it if you want to keep track of that. Or if you plan on using part of the survey results for a grade, that gives you the opportunity to do so. I also recommend posting an announcement in Canvas with the survey link, just to keep reminding students of when the survey is due or when they should be working on it. And then if you're interested, we had about half and half during the pilot. I had some faculty that just wanted to try out the survey, use it for institutional purposes, and call it a day. But then some faculty wanted to use it as a grade and read what students said, so I can get the results to you fairly quick. I'm not going to give a date to that because this is our first time using a large scale version of the survey, but I imagine I can get it to you within the week that the survey closes. So if you want to use the results for portions of the grade, please do. And then lastly, this is really important. Read through that teamwork rubric with students before they start the project because it's full of good practices for teamwork skills. It's good for them to know in general what they're going to be rated against before they start the project. It's just good to be transparent about that. So just if you don't mind taking some time in your course or just making a quick video of you saying why it's important to you if you're teaching a remote class or an all fully online course. I just think it's really important that they see that rubric before they start. All right, that is all the information that I have. Are there questions? Anything that we want to go over? I'm going to stop the share so that way we can all see each other. Thoughts, questions, comments?
It's kind of a question. In the rubric, the one of the criteria was something to do with other points of view.
I think I'm trying to think which criteria you're referring to, Lance. You're probably right.
I remember seeing it at the beginning of the.
Oh, it's in the definition of the teamwork learning outcome for the THECB set forth. Their definition says that they want students to consider different points of view and work effectively with others for a shared purpose or goal. I'm not sure if our current rubric really gets at that different points of view explicitly in the rubric. I'm looking through it now.
Okay, and that's been a dilemma for my key assignments and probably a lot of other people's for a long time. Basically, it's either right or it's wrong. It doesn't really matter what your point of view is.
I think in this case, the interpretation is that they consider their teammates' opinions. That might be a better way to say that. Like, you know, how they're setting up, if you're giving a presentation, that you consider what other people want to put into the presentation versus just saying, no, it's my way or the highway. I think that's what that interpretation means in this case. Brad, I think you had some.
So have you thought about participation levels? Because you're basically going to give us a link to SurveyMonkey, and we're not going to know who participates, who doesn't, right?
Yes.
Could, but we won't. And it's basically the same thing as end of course surveys. You know, typically we either get really good reviews, they were happy, or really bad reviews. You know, I made a D and it's his fault, that kind of a stuff, and hardly anything in between. And I'm thinking, just kind of thinking out loud, that maybe if you put this in Canvas as a Canvas module, you know, in Canvas, you can set it up to where they have to complete tasks before they go on to the next task. And that would force them to complete the surveys.
Okay. I might need to know a little, I'm not a Canvas expert, so I might need to just get with you and learn a little bit more about what you said. I can talk to a couple things. In both or in all instances of the survey, the lowest response rate I had was 88%. So 88% of students were responding, and of the 12% that did not respond, those faculty did not require their student to do it since it was a pilot. So it wasn't required as a part of the project, so they didn't do it. And the classes that required it as a part of the project or required it as a part of, maybe not even as a grade, just said this is a requirement, you need to do this. It was like a 95% response rate.
Right, but how do we require it if it's in SurveyMonkey?
So that's where I think and maybe some of my piloters can to share their experiences. I know that some people have it as an assignment in Canvas. So that way when I mean, obviously you still can't guarantee, but some people, I think one of my piloters had students upload like a screenshot of the survey, the end of the survey. But also I'm still in constant communication with you guys. So if you just want to say, hey, we're halfway through the survey, who's responded, who hasn't, it's really, I don't mind sending you an email saying that. So I can help you keep up with that.
Amanda,
We can tell who did it, right?
well, that's what can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jared.
Point. You can't. Amanda can, but you can't.
But no, that's by the end of the survey, she actually submits or gives you an Excel sheet that tells everything, everyone who's done it, what they've said, and the grade that they gave the other person. So you can get that. Like I'll probably request it about mid-semester because my surveys will be done. I'll be able to receive that and see who did it and what they said, what the grades were for each person in their member or the group. So then I add that to my assessment. I'll also make it part of their grade that they have to complete the survey. And I guess my response rate was probably about 95 overall, all the semesters that I did it, because those that didn't, they would get a 0 for half of the teamwork effort. Because part of the teamwork is to assess the team. And so they would only get whatever the grade was for the group. But usually it's the same people who aren't working in the group that don't submit anything. So they don't work in the group and they don't assess the group, and they end up with a 0 on a 10% project. So I had no problem with that. And I knew everyone who did and who didn't by the end.
Thank you, Jared. I saw Edlin posted a question in the chat. She said, not all students in the course will be selected to be surveyed. Well, not all students will be in the sample for the teamwork sample, but all students will submit the survey. It's similar to giving the key assignment in the other ILOs, right? We're not trying to single out the one student with the survey or single out the one student with the assignment. We're giving it to everybody and making it a part of their teamwork project to have that assessment piece. And then later on the back end, I'm going to have a lot of help from IR / I'm about to become a Excel expert on pulling just the data from the students that are in the sample.
So Amanda, do you have one of the Excel sheets that you sent out to us? Because I have one if you want me to share it. But
you actually reminded me that I had one. And Jared, this will be really good for you to see too, because it's with the new survey. Because you saw I changed the format a little, right?
Okay.
Let me show you what it will look like. All right, so this is what I send out to faculty. I have to do the color coding for my brain, or else there's too many things on here. So the first column now is who gave the rating. So this is the student that submitted the survey. That's why their name might appear twice, because Brandon gave the rating for himself, and then Brandon also gave a rating for Dominique. And so you can, from there, you see who submitted it, what did they rate themselves, and you can see their explanation. It's cut off, but you can, if you click on it, you can see it up here, or I kind of leave it to the faculty members. You can expand this for your own viewing. I just give a basic format when I send this out. And then I always make sure that I include the filters so you can go through and sort as well. So if I wanted to just focus on one group, I could select, I know that, let's say Chloe and Destiny. Oof, let me get people that are actually in a group. Chloe, Lauren, and Edgar. So I can get Chloe, Edgar, and Lauren and just see their responses for their group. So I can see what Chloe gave to herself. I can see what Chloe thought about Lauren, what Chloe wrote about Edgar, and then you can also sort them as well by who was rated. So if I just want to focus on only the ratings for Chloe, I can select Chloe and I'm seeing how she rated herself, how she was rated by her peers, and then I can read the responses here. And what I thought was nice is that we are seeing more realistic responses. We're not just seeing all fours or all ones. We are seeing those in between scores of threes and twos where students are really thinking about, okay, you know, I don't know if we did the best, but I did do something. So I'm going to give, and you can see how much they wrote here. I mean, they're really thinking about their responses, or at least it feels that way. Of course, this is not a perfect process, but it is nice to see that there is more response. But this is very similar to the survey I will send you. I will also try to include the raw results. This is what it looks like before I clean it, which is a mess. I include it just in case I made a mistake, but you'll be getting this version. So this is what you'll see first. Any questions about the spreadsheet or anything you want to see before I move on?
I did want to mention one more thing that I did is I actually added to my grade I would actually grade their responses, and I would tell them that I'm looking for consistency. You don't know what other people are giving the others. And if you give them a really good grade and the others are honest and give them a lower grade, then I'm actually going to deduct points from yours for being dishonest. And so I would go with the majority, that's what divided as, or a really good justification as to why they gave maybe a lower score than the others. But that was part of their grade. And I'm telling you, I really like this process. I think I got the most accurate assessment of teamwork that I've ever had to work with. So it's 50% of their key assignment grade. It's big.
And I think that's also the beautiful part of this too. Thank you, Jared, is that everyone that piloted it did it a little bit differently and still found that it worked for them. So this is all for you to see what works best for you in your class. And yeah, I mean, if my piloters don't mind me saying their names, you can always ask them. I mean, I know Jared and Jenny have already shared that they were piloters, but like I said, the other ones, you know who you are. You can put it in the chat if you want people to reach out to you. I won't force that upon you. But if you'd like to reach out to them, I'm sure they'd be happy. Okay.
Participated, so people can reach out to me too. I thought it was great, this digital format, instead of sorting through a bunch of papers. So it just summarized the results. And yeah, as far as participation, I didn't really have any issues. There's going to be one or two students, like Jared said, that didn't complete it, but those usually the students that weren't involved in the project anyway. And similar to what Jared was doing with 1406, for 1407 is part of their project grade. So if they're not doing the survey, they're going to lose points.
And then, thank you, Robert. So then I think the last thing I will say, and then you can stay on if you want to keep asking questions, and then I'll put the presentation in the chat too while I'm thinking about it. But the last thing I will say is that this will be the first time we're using this survey on a larger scale. The realistic part of my brain knows that at some point during the semester, we might run into some sort of hiccup, you know, to put that as nicely as possible. So please be patient as we try out this new survey as a campus. And I know you will be, but I'm just saying that if something goes wrong, please just reach out to me. Let me know. We will solve it together. And I'm looking forward to using it this semester. I put the presentation in the chat. The last thing that I wanted to share with all of you that's in the presentation is that if you're looking for any teamwork assessment resources, well, one, I put colleagues. They were faculty from all of our core areas that assess teamwork piloted the survey. So someone from sciences, someone from English, we had someone from speech pilot it, and then we even had some people outside of the core in business classes pilot it. So odds are there's someone out there that if you want to talk to them about teamwork, I can connect you with them. So let me know. Leap Texas has a great teamwork website. They have a lot of assignment resources as well as just examples of what they've done in their classroom. And then last but not least, this is a pretty cool guide. The University of Texas at Arlington created this open access guide for students about what teamwork is. And I thought it was really neat and worth a good look at. It has pages like, what does it mean to be a leader? Do you have to be in charge? Or is leadership also just some other qualities? It doesn't mean you have to be number one and in charge of the whole group. So it's a pretty cool resource, that open access guide. I'm not the expert at using the platform that they put the open access guide at, so sometimes I have trouble going through all the pages, but once you get the hang of it, it's really neat to look through. But other than that, that's all I have. Please let me know if I can help you throughout the semester. Hang on if you want to talk to me about the teamwork assessment in any other ways, but I hope that this made you feel a little bit more comfortable about what's coming up in the fall. And just know that I'm always here. So email me, call me. Sometimes I'll be in Brazos on Wednesdays if you happen to be up on campus eventually, but I'll be around. So let me know if I can help you in any way.